This is a review that honestly I didn't want to do. I was not planning on going to see this movie, and you'll notice that this review is being put up, like, during this movie's second week at the box office. If I really, really wanted to go see this movie, I would have seen it like the weekend before last and already had a review up for it by now. But I just really fucking did not want to go see Alice in Wonderland. The previews look like shit. It's not a story that I particularly like or have ever liked since I was a kid. So I had no desire in seeing this fucking movie. And I go see plenty of movies that I have no desire seeing. I had no interest in fucking seeing Sorority Row, but I still went to go see it because I thought it'd make for a funny review, you know, me just sitting there fucking yelling about Sorority Row. I mean, you know, that movie was fucking awful. I certainly wasn't looking forward to going to see that. But this one, I mean, I guess that right there tells you how much I so did not want to go see Alice in Wonderland. But I eventually did see it, and here I am reviewing the goddamn thing, so I gotta ask why. Why did I go see it? Why am I right now here eventually reviewing the goddamn movie? Well, I went to go see it with a few people. Me, Brian, Sarah, and Jillian all went to go see the thing, and the thing is still fucking making money. It made another like $62 fucking million last weekend. Why is this thing fucking making money? Seriously. All four of us went to go see it, and Jillian liked it. But me, Brian, and Sarah, I mean, it was more soul-crushing for us than watching the worst of the fucking Bruno Mattei Mondo movies. It was that, I mean, it was on a level of, like, when we went to go see The Fourth Kind. And truth be told, I would probably rather watch The Fourth Kind again than sit through this piece of shit Alice in Wonderland movie. And I'll tell you why here in a bit. But anyway, I'm here finally putting up a review because people are still going to see this fucking movie. I don't get it. I mean, I guess, are these the same fucking people that made Transformers 2 a hit at the box office and made that piece of crap break all sorts of summer records and shit? I don't know. But, so I might as well just throw up this goddamn review, but in saying that I would rather watch The Fourth Kind again than this movie, I was probably more angry at The Fourth Kind while watching it, and then afterwards in reviewing that movie probably made me angrier, but at least The Fourth Kind was of a genre that I like. A horror movie or an alien movie, whatever you want to call it. At least it was my taste. It was just a horrible fucking movie that happened to just be a genre that I liked. And they just pissed and shit all over it. Alice in Wonderland is a terrible movie in a genre that I'm not particularly fond of. I am not a fan of the fantasy epics like this movie. I mean, I've probably lost friends before because of the fact that I can't stand Legend. Like, I don't like Legend. I mean, the Harry Potter movies are okay, but I'd never watch any of them again. I am not into the Lord of the Rings. Not in the least bit. I mean, there are movies of the fantasy genre that I do like. I love Excalibur, Willow, Beastmaster, Deathstalker. Those I like, especially Deathstalker 2. But here's Alice in Wonderland, and I don't hate the movie just because it's not my taste. It is just a terrible movie that happens to be of a genre that I don't like, so that kind of makes me hate it even more. But I mentioned this earlier that I'm just not an Alice in Wonderland fan. I'm not, you know, I'm not high. I'm not a film scholar. And I don't, you know, hang out in a coffee shop all the time. But, so Alice in Wonderland really isn't my cup of tea. So anyway, like when I was a kid watching Disney movies, Alice in Wonderland was never one. Like I've probably seen Disney's Alice in Wonderland once, and even when I was a kid, I just wasn't into it. I much preferred like Pinocchio with the kids like fucking drinking beer, smoking cigars and shit, and turning into donkeys. I mean, that shit was awesome. And like Dumbo, they're getting fucking drunk, seeing pink elephants, and you got the crows in there. I mean, that shit I fucking love. But Alice in Wonderland, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's a little too surrealist for me, and I'd just much rather watch something else. So I'm kind of watching this new Alice in Wonderland like, okay, is this the same goddamn story as the rest of them? Because I've seen a couple of incarnations of Alice in Wonderland before. I don't remember it being this bad. And then Jillian, we're on the way home, and Jillian was talking about how she found it weird that Alice was much older in this movie than in the book. I guess I've never read the book, but than in that and in other movies, because in this movie she has previously been to Wonderland, and she's much older now. She's like 19 or 20 in the movie. And so she goes back to Wonderland. And that actually made me even more mad. That was, to me, it was seriously like, oh, great. So what, it's fucking like Hook? Great, this is the Hook of Alice in Wonderland movies? Oh, fantastic. They made it like the worst Spielberg movie ever. That's right, quote me on that. Hook is the worst Spielberg movie ever fucking made. And I'm a guy who likes 1941. I fucking hate Hook. Or also, like, I guess this movie could be akin to, like, Return to Oz. But I remember kind of liking Return to Oz, but Hook sucks, this movie sucks, it's of that same kind of ilk. But not only that, like, I'm sitting there watching it, and about everything that I'm seeing in this movie just seems like it's ripped off of other things, like how Anne Hathaway is in this, and she looks, with her white hair, white dress, like black eyebrows, she looks straight out of fucking Narnia, another series of movies I don't like. She looks straight out of that. Even Alice herself, dressed in like a suit of armor and a sword, looks like straight out of something like fucking Narnia. And Helena Bonham Carter is the evil queen. Looks just like Lord Farquaad from Shrek. So, like, there's all this shit that, and the look of the movie too is, I don't know how to describe it, but Tim Burton has somehow made the worst Terry Gilliam movie ever. And I love Terry Gilliam, but just picture in your head what the worst, like, surreal Terry Gilliam movie would be, and it's this fucking movie. I mean, that's what it feels like. And there was, like, a tiny, like, sort of 2-second beacon of hope in watching this horrible fucking movie. And it was when I realized that Crispin Glover is in it. Yes, Crispin Glover is in this movie. He's one of the fucking bad guys. And so he comes on screen. I didn't know he was in it, but going into the movie. I mean, I certainly didn't follow this. I certainly didn't read a lot of articles about it before going to see it. I mean, all I know, it's Tim Burton, it's Alice in Wonderland, and Johnny Depp's all over the place in the trailers. Seriously, by the trailers, judging from the trailers, they should have called this piece of shit Mad Hatter the movie. So Crispin Glover comes on screen, and I'm kind of excited. I'm like, alright, fucking Crispin Glover, back on the big screen. Nice! You don't see Crispin Glover on the big screen too much. That's cool. And then 2 seconds go by, and like, God, they wasted Crispin Glover on the big screen in a big movie, like out in the theaters, and it's fucking wasted on Alice in Wonderland. It's like, then I just got fucking depressed. Oh man, I just got sad. I'm like, oh, such a waste of Crispin Glover, who's just fucking awesome. And I'm sure that maybe some of the stuff in the movie, like the Anne Hathaway character with the white hair and like the suit of armor and how this stuff looks in it, I don't know. Maybe it comes from the book. I don't care though. I don't give a shit. If a lot of stuff I'm saying in this review is wrong, I don't care at all. This is not a movie that I'm gonna lose sleep over if I get facts wrong about it. I so do not give a shit about Alice in Wonderland or this fucking piece of shit movie. And as far as the Mad Hatter goes in it, like I said, in the trailer, it's making it look like he's like the star of this fucking movie. And then watching it, the Mad Hatter doesn't come into it until probably a half hour into the movie. But once he comes into it, he's there through the rest of it. I mean, he's like fucking, Murtaugh to Alice's Riggs in this thing. Like, they're like sidekicks all of a sudden. And he's hardly fucking mad in this movie, too. He's called the Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter, yeah. He's called the Mad Hatter, but he's just zany at best. I mean, if anything, he's just retarded. He sits around, like, he kind of giggles and he makes hats all the time. I'm sorry, that's not mad. If you want to call him the Mad Hatter, then he should be sitting there shoving food up his ass and shit in his mouth. That's pretty mad. Or maybe he should talk like Peter Lorre or do something. I don't know, but and he's just and I like Johnny Depp. I like Johnny Depp, and I like Tim Burton. All right. I mean, oftentimes Tim Burton is just kind of weird for the sake of being weird, but it's still pretty good. His movies are still usually pretty good, and Johnny Depp's a really good actor, but. This is, like, Johnny Depp in this movie is just odd for the sake of being odd, and it doesn't work at all. He's mainly just kind of obnoxious in the movie. And Tim Burton, like, it's his worst movie ever. It's the worst Tim Burton movie of all time. It's worse than Planet of the Apes. Before Alice in Wonderland, I probably would have said that Planet of the Apes is the worst Tim Burton movie, but no. I would rather watch Planet of the Apes, like, every weekend for the rest of this year than go see Alice in Wonderland again. And there is such a soul-crushing moment in this fucking movie. At the end, when they have their big battle with the Jabberwocky, who has, like, one line in the movie. And we're sitting there, me and Brian are sitting there, like, we kind of recognize the voice of the Jabberwocky, but we didn't get to hear him talk that much. He has one line before getting his fucking tongue cut out. And so it was Christopher Lee as the voice of the Jabberwocky, but it's like, well, what's the point of it being a name actor like that if he has one goddamn fucking line? So that was stupid. And then, but anyway, I'm getting off track here, per usual. So they win their big battle, like the Jabberwocky's dead, and then Johnny Depp comes out and does this thing called the Futterwacken, I think, where he, like, comes out and starts just, like, breakdancing and shit, and his head doing, like, a Linda Blair 360 head turn, and, like, his torso does the same thing. And, like, people behind him start, like, they're, like, his backup dancers and shit. Me and Brian just sat there, and we just... I mean, if I look like sleepy-eyed right now, it isn't because I'm tired. It's because I'm mostly dead right now after that. We're sitting there with our fucking glasses just weeping, like silently weeping to ourselves. It was more embarrassing than when Mark Wahlberg talked to a plastic plant in The Happening. That's how bad this fucking Futterwacken dance scene in it. And there are people online trying to fucking stick up for the Futterwacken, because they're saying, like, oh no, you don't understand, earlier in the movie, he said if they win at the end, he's gonna do the Futterwacken, he's gonna dance, it's gonna be so good. So what? He could have said earlier in the movie that by the end of it, I'm gonna take a shit, and then at the end, he takes a shit. You know what? It's still shit. Just like the Futterwacken. Shit! And then Alice does it at the end of the movie. It's like, alright, let's fart to call back to the shit. It was... And the 3D in it, too. The 3D was even terrible. It was all fucking dark and murky and muddy. And I know why, too. It was because this thing wasn't originally shot in 3D. It was shot in 2D and then converted into 3D probably at the last minute, and that's probably why the goddamn thing's made so much money over the weekend, because tickets are twice as expensive. And, like, there's not any kind of 3D experience in this thing. You're sitting there with those glasses, and if you go see it, and you kind of take the glasses off, you'll see that the picture is actually a lot brighter and more colorful than when you have the glasses on, and it's all, like, kind of dark gray and shit, and just looks like they smeared Vaseline over the screen, and the stuff in it that I guess is supposed to have any kind of 3D effect looks like shit that was just put in at the last minute in, like, extreme post, because there'll be, like, a little piece of pollen floating past the camera. So what? That's stupid. I mean, that's nothing compared to, like, fucking, it should be like Jason Voorhees shooting a harpoon gun right at the screen. That's 3D. This isn't 3D. This is a 2D movie that I gotta wear stupid glasses for. So, you get no good 3D experience in this. You get no good movie experience in it at all. It is just a soul-sucking, terrible, terrible, terrible film. And it was kind of funny at the end of it. Like, I always feel kind of bad, like, when you go see a movie in a group of people and there's like 4 of us, and there's like everyone else hates it, but there's like the one person who likes it, and in this case it was Jillian, my fiance, so it isn't like I could really stand out there and bash this fucking movie. This fucking movie like I am right now. And even when we got to the car, she was like, I was hoping you wouldn't bash the movie this much. And I'm like, have we met before? Like, I bash movies for a living. And then I was like, honey, trust me. Like, that was me remaining calm. Imagine if it was just me and Brian going to go see it. But of course, if it was just me and Brian, we wouldn't be going to fucking see piece of shit Alice in Wonderland. So, that's about all I got here. I don't think I really have anything else to say about Alice in Wonderland. Just, if you go see it, if you go see this fucking movie and you think it's going to be really bad, be prepared, because it's going to turn out to be worse. I saw this movie expecting it to be really bad, and it was a lot fucking worse than I thought it would be. So you could try to do like me and Brian and try to fall asleep during it, which we tried to do. We tried forcing ourselves to fall asleep in this fucking movie, and I think it's the only time I've ever really tried doing that in a movie, and unfortunately I didn't fall asleep. I really, really wish I did. But, so, see this piece of shit at your own risk, or just fucking don't see it at all, because it sucks ass. And I am gonna go fix something to eat now, so, see ya.